There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, either do I.
1, 2, 3, set, go.
Hello, and thanks for tuning in to episode 128 of the Power Chord Hour podcast. How you doing out there? I'm your host, Anthony Merchant, with the last episode of 2022. It is the December 2022 rundown of the show. I can't believe we're here, but yeah, the last one of the year. And my apologies the last couple weeks. I have been missing in action. I did put that I was going to be out for a week, and then things just got so busy last week, and there's no time to really find a guest. And I think also as you kind of look in this rundown, I mean, if you don't already know, I mean, we're kind of going into those quiet months of music and everything anyway. So, there's like a lot less going on for like, having guests and stuff on. There's certain months where there's tons and tons being released. People are doing a lot. There's a lot to talk about. And right now, a lot less. Everyone's kind of decompressing for the year, getting ready for next year, and obviously just enjoying the holidays and everything. Hopefully your holidays are going great. I am recording this on Boxing Day, I guess, day after Christmas. And yeah, didn't have a half-bad Christmas, pretty quiet and everything. But yeah, that was the other reason, like, with not doing an episode. I mean, just getting really busy with getting ready for Christmas and everything. So it was like, yeah, I just got to a point of like, all right, I don't think an episode was going to happen last week, and then it didn't. But hey, we're back here. I had to make sure I got back on at least one more time for 2022. I would 100% say this has been the best year of the show by far, by and large, and a really good year for everything. So at least for the show, not for like, I guess everything. I did hit a deer too just a couple weeks ago. So I mean, not like all is good, but I think with the show we've had a exceptionally great year and really fun on it. So definitely want to make sure I could at least get on one more time and kind of talk December and really kind of like a yearly rundown kind of thing. But I mean, again, like I was getting ready like songs and new releases of the month and like getting music news and stuff, and it's like there's just not a lot. I'm like, I feel like there's a little bit to talk about, but nothing too crazy. I mean, same with this month. I mean, I just stayed. We really only had one episode, so I mean, it's even hard to even like talk about. Sometimes I'll go through like the guests and anyone who I've talked to for the month. But Chris Wren was the only person I talked to, and we talked back in November, like the last. I don't remember what day we actually talked, but it was one of the last few days. I think it was maybe that Tuesday. I think it was like the last Tuesday, so it was like the second to last day of November. But yeah, that was the last time I did a Power Chord Hour interview. I have a few lined up for early next year, which I'm very excited about, and some including returning guests to the show, and including some people we've had on this year. So I'm looking forward to that, and also thinking about like another one. Obviously, if you listen to the show, I do quite a few like album anniversary interviews, and kind of getting ready for next year. Looking at what came out in like 2003 and like 1993. And all those, looking for some album anniversary interviews that would be fun. I have a few that I've not reached out to yet, but I kind of found the avenues to do so and would absolutely love to have them on. But I won't jinx any of that, but definitely plan on more album anniversary interviews in 2023 with the show. I will say with the radio show, I believe I announced it on the last episode, but for 2023, we are going to go from, we're 4 hours right now. We go 8 to midnight Friday nights. And next year, we're going to strip it back 1 hour and go 8 to 11. That's just a hard one to do. That's the 4 hour thing. WRFA is cool. I mean, they just allowed me to do that. I'm just like earlier last year when life was less hectic for me, I was like, hey, I want to do 4 hours. Like I want to jump from 2 to 4. And they were cool with it and everything. And, doing 4 is great, but I mean, weeks where I'm busy, oh man, is that hard to get together a 4 hour radio show on top of the podcast. So we're going to cut it down. I mean, really an hour may not seem like a lot, but that's a decent amount. Cause normally by like the 4th hour, including if we do like, if we have a guest or an interview or something, I mean, we're done by hour 3 or 4 with that. So, I mean, by that point I'm just playing music, which is fun. But when you're doing everything else, getting that extra hour of music around, getting those 20 songs and, just getting all that together, that can definitely take up some time. So that'll save me a little bit of time. And I mean, not like I'm really going to spend it anywhere differently. I just basically thought it would save me a little bit of time getting the show ready every week. And I didn't think anyone would really miss that hour. And I could kind of dedicate that time, which definitely takes me more than an hour to get that hour around, and better use it in other facets of the Power Chord Hour. But the other cool thing, we're going to do 3 hours, and then we're also going to finally have a replay. We've going into year 7 of the show, we only air that one time on Friday nights, but we're going to start airing, I believe, midnight to 3 on Tuesdays, which is really perfect for us. I mean, we have those late night slots, but I mean, who knows? It's kind of weird because I realize that some of our audience listens to one and not the other. Some listens to both. So, I mean, I know people who listen to the radio show who have zero clue about the podcast, and to be honest, may not even listen to podcasts. And I have people who listen to podcasts who'd never listen, who'd never stream the radio station. And then I do have some people who listen to both. Those I can't thank them enough. I have a few people who I know listen to both of them, which huge shout out if that is you. But anyways, with the radio show, I mean, I can kind of play whatever I want, so I like those late hours. I mean, I play, not that myself, I mean, I definitely clean up my language on radio versus just doing a kind of freeform podcast. But like, as far as the music goes, I can definitely play some stuff that I probably wouldn't be playing if it was airing at like 3 in the afternoon. So I kind of like those late times. But I mean, I wanted some kind of replay, including for last year, because like I was doing those 4-hour episodes, they only air once, so we'd do a 4-hour episode and they really don't exist anywhere after. I mean, if I was gone, they would do a replay. So like when I was in Alaska and then ended up being out there for 6 weeks, I mean, it came in handy then. We did get to replay some of the radio shows, but I mean, for the most part, I do those radio shows, and they're just kind of, they just kind of go in the archives, and then every now and then when I'm gone, we'll play some repeats. But I mean, there's not like tons and tons of it. So, I'm looking forward to having that replay. And hey, I mean, I also look at it this way: is it's what was I saying? Midnight to 3 here, but on the West Coast, and this actually, that's what I was thinking too. Is if you're on the West Coast, or I mean, even just somewhere else with a different time zone, I kind of look at it that way too, where it's like that would be 9 o'clock. So that would be 9 to midnight on Tuesdays for the West Coast. So if you listen on the West Coast, maybe that makes more sense for you. Maybe it's harder to listen to the radio show 8 to midnight Eastern on a Friday night. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to having that replay, and maybe I'll have to go back through. I mean, again, February is going to mark 7 years of the show. And I mean, hell, our first podcast, I think, was like maybe late December, early January. It was either like December 2019, January 2020. So I mean, even the podcast portion is coming up on like its 3rd anniversary, which all of that is just absolutely insane to me. But I'm very excited to have that replay, and maybe I will start doing that. I've thought of it a little bit before, but I mean, I have these years and years of radio shows that again played like once, never played again. Maybe start like pulling those out at night on the station and being like, the last hour of the show, here's an hour from, the first year of the show or whatever. So kind of play around with that. I don't know. We'll see. But that's kind of the, on the radio front, some changes for 2023. I feel like as far as the podcast goes, there's really nothing crazy changing in the next year. I mean, I just hope to continue to have guests quite a bit. At the end of at the end of the year here, everything everyone starts going into hibernation for a little while and taking breaks. So like, people aren't left and right. Like you can't grab guests left and right. But I mean, this year was great for having guests. And earlier this month, actually, I think I talked about it maybe a little bit, or actually no, because I don't know. I'm looking at a calendar right now. I actually don't think I've recorded a podcast since going to that show, so maybe I haven't talked about it. But earlier this month, I actually got to see the best show of all year. I mean, it was the best show I saw all year, hands down. But I went to go see Allister up in Cleveland. And I know I've talked about it. I was looking forward to that show. And then Low Morale, also friends of the show, were on that. And then Eternal Boy, who we've never had on the show, but I definitely am a fan of them. They played, and I cannot remember the name of the very first. I can't think of, maybe like Hey Stupid or something. And I feel bad because I missed most of their set. I mean, from where I live to Cleveland is like 2.5 hours or so. So I mean, by the time I got up there and everything, got to the show, I caught like their last 2 songs. They were really good, but I mean, it was a 4-band bill, and I mean, everyone was just absolutely solid. I mean, Allister played Last Stop Suburbia front to back, which I was sad because they played it up in Pittsburgh near me in September, and it was right when I was going to Alaska, so I missed it. And yeah, they came back and did like 3 dates. They played, I think, 1 date in Maryland, and then they played in Cleveland and Pittsburgh, and just like a little weekend run. And I mean, that's the third time I've ever seen Allister live. That was the best I've ever seen them. Like, the energy was just, I mean, they've had energy every time I've seen them. Don't get me wrong. Very energetic live band, but like, I don't feel like anyone stopped moving the entire show, the audience and the band. And the best too on Fullerton, which, because they played most of the album in a sequence, but Fullerton was still the closer, and Tim invited everyone on stage to come sing it, so it was really rad to get on stage and get to sing that for the last song and just be up there. I was Facebook Live-ing the song at the moment, and then he said that, so I just, like, you know, with everyone else got up on stage, but I got to record it. So I think most of that, actually, if you want to see the video of that, I want to say it's on our Instagram page. I'm 99.9% sure I posted it there. I know it exists somewhere, but I'm pretty sure it's there if you want to go look for it. But yeah, I mean, really, just it was the best show I've seen all year, hands down. I mean, I knew it was going to be a good show, but like, I left it going like I knew it was a good show because like I left it and I just listened to a bunch of Allister on the ride home. Like, I put them on right away. But all the bands were really, really good. It was great to finally see Low Morale. You know, we had Justin Vaughn, the singer of the band, on earlier this year, and he's just a good dude. I always love talking to him, and it was great to finally hang out up there after the show and finally get to see them live. The band sounded really, really good, did a good Op Ivy cover, and yeah, we're just really solid. And then it was cool, too, because at the end of the night, I got a picture with Justin and Tim of Allister together, and two former guests of the show, and both of this year too. You know, as we're, you know, it's kind of funny as we're talking about the year end and everything. You know, both of them were guests of the show this year, and both were awesome. But it was just such a fun night of just like pop punk music at the. It was at the Foundry in Cleveland, which I had not been to a show there since 2014. With I went to go see Hawthorne Heights. That's the only show I've ever actually seen at the Foundry, and I wouldn't mind seeing more shows there. It's a cool venue. But yeah, last time I was there was almost a decade ago to see Hawthorne Heights at the Foundry, and on the way to go see Mixtapes up in Cincinnati. I originally was going to see Mixtapes. They were breaking up, and they were playing their last like run of shows with Direct Hit and Lipstick Homicide and Boys and Elway. Yeah, Elway played that show. I was trying to think of everyone who was on that show. I want to say that was everybody. The band Boys, which Maura Weaver was also in. I don't know if they're still a thing or not. They're really good. There are a couple little like EPs and stuff out there, but they're really good if you like mixtapes or like Lookout Records, kind of Green Day, the Queers-esque like pop punk of the early 90s. Boys is kind of like that. There was Boys, Lipstick Homicide, who Maura played in, like, I want to say if there was, look, I won't be able to get through this lineup because I'm just like reminiscing here, but I want to say it was Boys, Lipstick Homicide, Elway, Direct Hit, and then Mixtapes. And of those bands, Maura played in Boys, Lipstick Homicide, and Mixtapes. So she played in, I think, more bands than she didn't play in. And also she used to work at the pizza place that the show was in, which was wild. But yeah, anyways, I was going to that show, and on the way, Hawthorne Heights was playing the night before at the Foundry. So it was kind of like a last-minute show, too, if I remember. I don't know if they were on tour or what, but it was kind of like a last-minute, hey, the show's going on. So naturally, I had to stop at that on the way to Cincinnati. And yeah, both were good shows that weekend. But that was the last time I was at the Foundry for a show. But that was a really cool place to see one. And funny enough, too, Justin Vaughn's brother was on that last show. Bobby Vaughn, who we've had on the show from The Promise Hero, he played that show at the Foundry that I went to. And kind of like that opening band on this one, I got there too late, and I saw like his last song, and that was it, which I was bummed. I'd seen him live before that, but yeah, it was kind of a bummer that I got there, and he was already like finishing up playing. But yeah, that was such a good that Allister show is just such a just fun, just like pop punk, like, I mean, just kind of a show. I don't know, I've been to some punk shows this year, but like, I don't know, it was just kind of reminded me how much fun I have going to them. Like, I mean, I guess it happens almost every time I go, because I feel like I go, there's more space now. It used to be like I go to a show and, 2 weeks later I'd be at another one kind of deal. Now it's like I feel like maybe I go to a show, I don't know if I'd say once a month, maybe about once a month. I would, if I sat down and thought of everyone I've seen this year, maybe I go to a show like once a month, maybe. But, it's like kind of spread out. So like I really like and go, man, I wish I was at shows all the time. And then I'll kind of forget it before the next one. Then I'll go and go, oh man, I love it, So it, I guess I don't know. I feel like that's kind of getting older though too. I mean, that's probably most people. I went to more shows as I was younger and had more time. Definitely like in college. I mean, I'd go to shows like almost weekly. Like that wasn't a weird thing to just be like, oh, okay. I was talking about it, Chris Wren, when he was on the last guest we had on here, and kind of the same deal. He lived in Massachusetts and in that area where like you can get to all these different states in just a few hours. And I'm the same way. I mean, I live in Western New York, and I'm like right on the PA border. So like Pennsylvania's not far from me. Ohio's not far from me. I mean, even West Virginia's not far from me. Canada's like not far at all. I mean, Toronto's like 3 hours maybe. So like, I can be in all these places. So I mean, including in college, it was like there's all these bands where like, they do a run and it's like this night they're in Buffalo, next night they're in Rochester, the following night they're in like Pittsburgh or something. I mean, there were definitely bands where I'd go hit all three of those. I'd be like, well, I guess I'm going to all three shows. And they're all close enough too where you could just drive home at the end of the night. And, I don't remember the last time I did that. It's been a while since I did that run. I mean, there's also, there's a pandemic. So, I mean, shows are, even though it almost feels like they've been back for a while now, it's still, in the grand scheme of things, they're still kind of, reintroduced again. But yeah, I mean, I would love to get back to that, just going to see shows constantly. But man, it gets expensive. And I'm like, also just making the day of it and getting up there, because that is the one thing. I mean, these places are close, but you do still need to have that time to, drive up there or whatever to get there. But I am looking forward to my next show. I believe I have in the books is going to be the Menzingers playing On the Impossible Past front to back in Cleveland at the House of Blues. I'm looking forward to that. I feel like House of Blues never sounds like that's the cool one to say, but that's one of my favorite venues, honestly. The one in Cleveland, it's the only one I've ever been to. Maybe the other ones are awful. Maybe they're great. I don't know. I always hear about the one in Anaheim. I feel like they always get really good shows. But that one in Cleveland's always good, and I haven't seen a show there in forever. And I think I was at the last Menzingers House of Blues show there when they did the After the Party tour 5 years ago, which actually I'll connect this again as we keep talking, or I want to kind of do like a rundown of the year. But Dylan Flynn from the Pass the Bass campaign, who was on this year and was also on 5 years ago, I met him at the House of Blues Cleveland when the Menzingers were doing their After the Party tour there. So yeah. They were really good there last time, and I'm looking forward to. I mean, in my opinion, On the Impossible Past is their best record, at least so far. I mean, I gotta give them some credit. They're not done writing albums. They could still outdo themselves. But I mean, tons of great records after it. Don't get me wrong, but that one's always kind of my. I think that one will probably always be my favorite, with Rented World kind of. I don't know. See, Rented World kind of went for me for like when I first heard it, I was like, I liked certain songs, but I was like, it felt like a step in the wrong direction in my opinion. When it came out, I felt like it was a step in the wrong direction after On the Impossible Past. As time has went on, I realized I really, really liked that album and was kind of hoping that they were going to build on it afterwards, in which they never really did. I don't think they ever expanded on that sound again, really. I think they kind of went back to the On the Impossible Past sound for the last two records, and not even in a bad way. They don't even rehash it, but I mean, they just go back towards that kind of mood and tone and everything. I would say more than they do on a Rented World. I don't think they progressed on that Rented World sound, but I'm looking forward to that. It'll be my little thing coming back New Year's. I'm gonna go spend up in or over in Springfield, I guess I should say, with Zach, who has not been on the show for a while, but Zach Gorszewski, who we've had on tons with my buddy Kyle, the Bad Boys of Illinois, if you will. I'm going to go hang out with him. He's got a new place, so we're going to go throw a little party, have fun, break it in, a little housewarming / house party, whatever, and ring in the new year. He's really close to St. Louis, so definitely going to St. Louis at some point in there and hitting up vintage vinyl and a couple other things. I always have fun in St. Louis, but I also feel like I don't know everything that's there, so feel free if you have recommendations in St. Louis for good record stores, bookstores, dive bars, museum. I don't know if Zach really likes museums. I don't know. Some of those things are things that I enjoy that I don't know if he'll enjoy, but I know he'll enjoy record stores and dive bars and good restaurants and stuff like that. Like, feel free to send me recommendations. I would love to hear where you would send us. But yeah, go out there and just go hang out with him for New Year's, spend a couple days over that way. And then as I'm coming back, it only makes sense to go see the Menzingers. I mean, I drive right through Cleveland, so I'm going to go see them. I do need to grab a ticket, though, very soon because I know it's going to sell out. It happens. The last couple shows I was going to go to, they sold out before I could get a ticket. Allister, to be honest, I think Allister might have sold out. If it didn't sell out, it had to be close to it. That place was packed. It looked almost sold out. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. But yeah, it was the last show of the year that I went to, and it was also the best. It was hands down the best. But it's so insane now to even look at today recording this on the 26th. I mean, that show was like, I think December 4th. And I mean, it feels like it was just yesterday. But I did lose that when I hit that deer. I was without a car for like, I want to say like 5 days, maybe 4 or 5 days. So like I lost a week in December. I really did. Cause like same with like last week, that was the other thing, not having a show. It's like I got so hectic because it was like I lost a week of going when I was like planning on, I'll go buy, I'm going to go here to buy these gifts. I'm going to go here and there. I mean, I had plans and those were just squashed. So then come the next week, I was really running all around. It kind of felt like the beginning of the month. It was kind of like easy going. I'm going to see Allister, and I'll have some time to buy some gifts and this and that. And then yeah, after I hit that deer, boom, it was just I feel like it sped everything up even more. It's been some crazy stuff. But yeah, I've been getting ready for my New Year's plans. Christmas was good, but it was kind of more low key. But with this one, I mean, I gotta drive like, I want to say maybe like 10 hours. It's like a 10-hour drive, and then weather permitting. I mean, we got it bad here over the weekend, but nothing like Buffalo, which is 90 minutes away. And I mean, I feel like I can't even compare to what we got here with what they got in Buffalo. I mean, I don't think we had any casualties or anything like that. And I know up there, I mean, they had people like who died and everything. It was insane. So, I mean, hopefully everything is getting better up there. I know as I record this, I think things are still fairly crazy. I don't know if they're as bad as they were, but I don't think things are back to 100% yet. But yeah, I mean, weather permitting on the way there. I was talking to Zach today, and he said everything was good on his end over in Illinois. He said everything was just fine. So hopefully it's all pretty much smooth driving in between. But yeah, it's kind of my plan here the next couple days. So I'm going to get some stuff recorded and get myself ready for next year a little early on for the show. And then when I come back on the, I guess it'd be the 5th. I guess I will be gone for a couple days because that Menzinger show is the 4th. Oh, it's funny. It's a month. It's like, actually, I didn't even notice that until right now when I said it. That show is going to be exactly a month after the last show I saw in Cleveland and the last show I was at. So that's kind of cool. And I mean, unless we somehow fit a show in a Springfield or St. Louis, but I don't think anything's really going on. Yeah, it's been a while since I was like I think I've only been to like one New Year's Eve, New Year's show. I saw the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones in like, I think 2014 going into 2015 up in Buffalo at the Town Ballroom. And actually, you talk about snow. That is, I've driven through some wild shit leaving shows, driving back home. That to this day might still be one of the worst drives home. Like I remember being like not being able to see the road in a lot of it. Like it was one of those. There's just a like pure whiteout. Like it was, and it really wasn't that bad. I remember it wasn't that bad in Buffalo because I mean I'm really not someone. If it's that bad out, it's like whatever. I'll just crash in my car. Like I'm not gonna go drive through some real bad stuff. But I think I recall it being like Buffalo was fine. It wasn't till you got like halfway between Buffalo and Jamestown, and then it got really bad. And like at that point, I was. In the great words of Paul Westerberg, it's too late to turn back. Here we go. I mean, you're at the halfway point anyway, so it's like I could either go the one way and then I'm an hour and a half away from home, or I go the other way, which takes just as much time, and maybe it gets clearer, And it did. Once I got closer to home, it got a little clearer. But I do recall, just as well as I recall the show, I do recall the weather afterwards being absolutely wild. But I want to say it's like the only New Year's Eve, New Year's show I think I've ever attended. There's been some I've wanted to and didn't get to, sadly. I think the Suicide Machines in Chicago some odd years ago, 5-6 years ago maybe. Actually, maybe like a year after that one would have been cool. But yeah, none planned yet. Maybe me and Zach will have a show. Maybe we'll jump on his instruments and do like some Blink covers for everybody. And I can count that as my last show of 2023. But I can assure you it will not be better. I can play Somewhere on Fullerton on guitar and bass. So I think we're golden. So maybe we'll just cover some Allister and Blink at that party. I don't know yet. I'll have to ask him. But yeah, I thought I'd jump on. I mean, I've been very much this month. I mean, just kind of looking back on the show for the year. And I did write out, I think it was on like our Instagram. I don't know, I put a couple places, but like just a big old list of all the guests we had on this year. And like, again, just absolutely insane. I've had guests on since year one of the show. I mean, since 2016, we've had people on, but I mean, it's something I've always wanted to do more of. In some years I did a little more, but like really like, I mean, the first couple years too, I mean, I had like maybe a few a year. I mean, like the first year I had one, and then like the second year, I think I did like 5 interviews, 6 interviews. I think the year after, actually, I did less. And then the following year, I did like a handful. And then the following year, I started doing the podcast and got a little better with guests. But I mean, even if you go look at the track record between, 2020, 2021, and 2022, I would definitely say this year has been the most consistent for guests and even episodes. I mean, I know we've taken a few breaks here more towards the end of the year, though some were forced when I was stuck in Sacramento. But like, like last 2 weeks and stuff, a little more being like, okay, I can take the week off. But I mean, yeah, pretty much this year was pretty consistent with having guests and episodes and everything, which definitely made me happy. But I mean, I was going through and like, I don't even know if that I forgot some of the guests. It was just more of seeing them all like on a big old list on my phone, being like, oh man, like, I mean, I knew I had a lot of people, but like it was something I knew I was going to do. I had the thought a while ago. It's like, oh, you got to like write everyone down and see who's like been on this year. Cause I did it once, maybe like a year ago, like a master list of everyone who's ever been on. And I thought it'd be fun to do this year. And yeah, I started like writing it out. I'm like, oh my God, I've had like this person on, that, but like some really impressive people. I mean, at least like for me, just like legends and stuff. I mean, people I absolutely love. But I don't know. Do I have it here? Maybe I will read it to you if it's still on my phone. I'm gonna see if it's on. Okay, it is still here. So here are the people I have had on the Power Chord Hour in 2022, and a huge thank you to all of them. They have all been absolutely amazing. Victor DiLorenzo and Janet Schiff of 1913, and obviously you also know Victor DiLorenzo as original Violent Femmes drummer, and also 1/3 of Night Crickets, who put out one of my favorite albums this year, 100%. Like I was just talking about, Justin Vaughn of Low Morale. He was one of our early guests. Chelsea O'Donnell of Stress Dolls. She was always great. I was just talking to her, or emailing her, I should say, the other day about some stuff in 2023, but she was great. She was another one. These are all kind of, they're not in chronological order, I don't think, but they're all pretty much within the same month. So all these people I just mentioned were on like in January. And Jay Vix, my buddy Jay from, you probably know him from Quarantunes the last couple years, and the NJPP Facebook group, and also his band Red Rover. I had such an amazing time. I really wanted to do more of it, and he was like the only person we had on all year as like a guest DJ. But that was fun because we did like a hybrid / it was like an interview, but also he played a bunch of New Jersey pop punk from back in the day. So it was like an interview, but he also was like the DJ. It was really fun. I wouldn't mind doing more of those next year, and we very much might. Joey Cobra, who's on the most this year, 3 times. He did 3 appearances just this year on top of the multiple ones he did the last 2 years. I don't even know how many times he's been on the show now, but he was great. He was on like way early talking our favorite albums of 2021. Then he was on to talk our favorite albums of 2022 halfway through the year. And we talked No Effects of So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes. I believe those are all his appearances this year, and he will definitely be on next year. I mean, he's a local boy, and I always love having him in the studios. And yeah, he was great. Mikey Erg, I mean, that's one of those ones where it's like, what an honor to have him on. Mikey Erg was a cool interview. Travis Shettle of Piebald, we if you don't know, we're the only friends we have, shares the same release day as the first ever episode of the Power Chord Hour. So every year it's the same anniversary. So this year we had him on to do the 20-year anniversary of We're the Only Friends We Have, and then played the record front to back and all that. He was a really fun one. John Jughead Pearson, I mean, a Screeching Weasel, even in Blackouts, Mitochondriacs, the Mopes, all that. You know him, you love him. I mean, he is another one where he's up in legend status. I mean, he is one of the ones specifically I think of, and I go, oh my God, I can't believe I had him on. Like, not only I had him on, but like just how cool he was, and chatting with him after. And still, I mean, I still keep tabs with him, and we still talk and everything. So yeah, that's one of those in the legend status. Mickey Lee of Mickey Lee's Mutated Music and the Rattlers, also on the first Ramones record. You can hear him. He's Joey Ramone's brother, if you didn't know that. He also is the author of I Slept with Joey Ramone. Really good dude. I had a great time talking to him. I remember that interview quite well. Bradley and William of the band Barely Blind. I remember having them on there, both great. And one of those great TDR Records bands. Shout out Mike Hollins. Jean Beauvoir, our 100th episode of the podcast. He, the bassist of the Plasmatics, producer, worked with Kiss and the Ramones, solo artist. He's done tons and tons. But he's another one where he's a legend, and he's someone who I feel like I talk about, not even just on here, even on other shows that I do where I interview. Like, I feel like there was quips and like things he told me that I still like will reference in other interviews. Go like, I interviewed Jean Beauvoir and he said so and so about this or that. He was one of those, like, I don't even want to say he's a very quotable guy or what. I mean, also just a very wise. He's been doing it forever, but he's definitely one who's still, I think of, like, when I do interviews, and also even just for my own music, I feel like I think of some of the ideas and thoughts that he shared with me. But he was really cool. He's another one. His book he put out this year, Bet My Soul on Rock and Roll. Definitely, if you have any gift cards, I would say go grab that book, and definitely a good read in early 2023. Who else? Jeremy Porter of Jeremy Porter and the Tucos. He was another great one who I got to meet a couple months later. It was rad to meet him in person, and even radder just talk music with him. He's one of those guys where, I mean, we talked about his music. We talked about he writes about music and stuff too. Now he's a musician, but he does the like writing and kind of covering side of it. So he can talk his music, everyone else's music. I mean, he's just a fun one. Leo Dyke of the band Reminders. You will definitely next episode we'll open 2023 with my favorite albums of 2022, and I promise you that Reminders is on there. That I love that record, and Leo was really cool to talk to. Leo was a great dude. Dylan Flynn, like I mentioned earlier, of the Pass the Bass campaign, he made his triumphant return to the show, and really fun. That whole month. The next couple guests are kind of like that, because then Jamie Wolford, who was on last year, he was on this year, of the Stereo and Animal Chin, and this time he brought along Rory Phillips of the Stereo, also of the Impossibles, and that was a fun one. Talking to Jamie last year just by himself was really cool, but talking to Jamie and Rory, just being the huge fan I am of both of them and the Stereo and everything, it was insane. That was totally insane. So that was really cool to have them on. Maddie Grace of Cluttered, who I believe we'll be having her back on early next year. She'll probably be one of the first interviews of 2023, and I'm looking forward to it, because just like in 2022, she has an insane, I was just chatting with her, she has an insane amount in 2023, so quite a bit to talk about. So expect her on the show soon. She did that interview with Chris of Talk Show Hosts. They did that really great NMU split, which I can't recommend that enough if you haven't heard that yet. I mean, really, all these people I'm talking about probably put something out this year, and well worth your time checking out. And also, if you go back and listen to these episodes, we probably talk about whatever project it is that I'm currently telling you to go listen to. John Doe of X, I mean, that's he not even just this year, like of just the existence of the Power Chord Hour, one of the biggest just honors. Like I still think of him and go, oh my God, like I had John Doe on the show. Like I had that's John Doe. Like that's insane. Like I know Paul Westerberg's like my all-time favorite songwriter, but like he's only a few notches below Westerberg as like best songwriters of the 80s. Like I mean he's up there, possibly he's at least in the top 10, possibly top 5. So like, again, it just goes that where it's like, wow, and he's on like my dumb show and talk to me for well over an hour. I mean, I could go on forever about that interview with John Doe. That was unreal and really, really cool. And I think the coolest thing too that he said him and Exene were in the early stages of working on the next X record. Which, my God, would that be pretty cool if I could have John and Exene together and talk to both of them? That would be pretty rad. A boy can dream. But then again, there was a time I definitely didn't think John Doe would ever be on the show. So crazier things have happened. Tony Scalzo of the band Fastball, that was a fun one. That was a real fun, just laid back conversation with him. He was really cool. And I always hear from other people who know him that he's a great dude. I remember when I put out that I was going to interview him, Greg Eklund from Everclear texted me and he's like, "Oh, he's a great dude. Like I'm happy you're having him on. He's a really rad dude." And he's like, when Everclear and Fastball used to tour together in the 90s, he was like Greg said he was like one of the Fastball were one of the few bands he would go out like every night and watch. And that has to be, I'm sure when you're on tour, it's like, do you really want to watch whatever band you're touring with? I'm sure after a while you watch them a couple nights. But I don't know if you gotta watch them every single night. He's like, you would go watch them every single night, and they're great musicians. That album, The Deep End, they put out this year, excellent stuff. Joe Rio and Rob Freeman of Hidden in Plain View, they were great. Joe was a returning guest, and just like with Jamie from the Stereo, he brought his bandmate with that time. That was Rob's first time on the show, and he was really fun. Another returning guest, Tim Rogner of Allister, like I was talking about. That was his second time, first time since 2019, and we got to talk all about Last Stop Suburbia, and I got to hear him play it front to back earlier this month. I mean, Don McLean, that was pretty damn cool. He's another one, including like lyricists, and I mean, he's insanely talented. Like those singer-songwriters of like the 60s and 70s, I mean, I put him right up there with Dylan. So yeah, that was another really, really unreal one. When that whole opportunity came, I was like, hell yeah, I'll interview Don McLean. Like, yeah, let's have him on, like, of course. So that was a really cool one. Scott Radinsky of Poli, that was a really fun one. Danny and David of No Win, they were both great. Dodger Stadium, their record is another one of my favorites of the year, 100%. And I only kind of tease that. We'll get into that this next episode. I'll get like in depth on these records and talk about them more. But Joey of the band Near Beer, he was really cool. Mark McMillan of Hawthorne Heights and the Story Changes, he made his second appearance on the show. Komodos, we had the whole band, and they're great. They just put out their debut EP last month and are doing some really cool things in New York City. It's rad to see them doing stuff all over the city from the looks of it. Greg Graffin of Bad Religion, I mean, my God, that was only a couple episodes back, but I mean, another one, I don't have to tell you that, insane honor. And then right after that, Black Dahlia of the Dwarves, I mean, those back-to-back were pretty cool. And yeah, Adam and Chris of the Eves, great Buffalo band. I will probably, actually speaking of shows too coming up, they have a album release show that they announced up at Mohawk Place in Buffalo next month in January, so I will more than likely be at that show. So after the Menzingers, I think the next one on the plate will be the Eves for an album release show, which I'm really looking forward to. And yeah, then our final guest of the year, Chris Wren of Bridge 9 Records. So I mean, just looking at that list, I mean, insane. I can't thank all, I got to thank all of them. Huge shout out to all of them. Everyone was a good guest. There really, no one, I promise you, no one who came on this year, or really ever, I've never really had anyone on the show who I can like, there's no nightmare stories that I can really share with you. I mean, let's hope it stays that way, but like, there's nothing I can really like behind the scenes stories where I go, this person was horrifying or, it's just a real ass or anything. I really have been pretty lucky, but I mean, especially this year, everybody has been especially cool. I had a great time talking to everyone. So, I mean, huge thank you to everyone's been on a guest on the show. I mean, like I was saying, it's been very important to me to have more people on, and I finally kind of did it this year, I feel like. So, and another one, I mean, the guests are the one side, and the other side, thank you for listening. I mean, huge shout out. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you've listened to other episodes, and, thank you, because again, I mean, this year has been really, really cool. So thank you for listening to any and all episodes, and I mean, being a reason why I can get these cool guests. No one's going to come on if no one listens to this show. And if no one's listening to the show, I'm not going to do the show. So, there's this real cycle here where, one kind of exists because of the other. So, yeah, huge shout out to you for listening and spreading the word. Everyone's been really cool. And I mean, really, like, hands down, my favorite year of the show so far. I mean, we're 6 years in, and it's cool to be like, oh, like, this is the best one so far. And just so far, kind of like I was saying with the Menzingers earlier, they're still making albums. We're still making episodes. So maybe 2023 will be even better. But yeah, I have some new music. There is, again, like music, just the music industry kind of slows down November, December, and I feel like doesn't get really sped back up and doing a whole lot till, really not till like March or April. March tends to, like, I feel like this year things probably kind of started really happening in like March. Those first couple months definitely kind of dead. You're still kind of promoting things from the year before. But some new music out this month, a new single from Bayside, Go to Hell, which I'll play you here in a second. The Interrupters put out an acoustic version of their song Raised by Wolves. White Reaper put out another new single called Fog Machine, and I'll also play that for you in a second. I know I played their last single, but I'm loving these singles. I got to say, their new album, Asking for a Ride, is one of my most anticipated of the new year, and that comes out in January. So actually, like, I think we're like a month, actually, I think it comes out the 27th of January, so we're looking at like almost exactly a month from now. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Newfound Glory, Get Me Home, that is a new single they just put out. No Effects put out their what is supposed to be their final album. It is called Double Album. I will be honest with you. I have not listened to that album yet. As you probably know, was definitely not a fan of single album. So I'm not like, I don't know, I haven't felt the need to jump on double album per se. But at the same time, I mean, I've loved NoFX for years, so I got to throw it out there that it's out there. I don't know if it's good or not after that last album. I don't know that I want to check it out, but that is there if you would like to listen to it. Out of Service just did a vinyl reissue of their sophomore record, Burden. So not a new album, but a new pressing of that album if you're looking for it on vinyl. Anti-Flag just put out a new single, Victory or Death. We gave them hell. I believe they do have a new record coming out sometime in 2023, probably on the early end. And Justin Courtney Pierre, he put out probably my favorite thing of the month, and that's his new Permanent Midnight EP. And I'm going to play you something off that right now, off of the new EP. Here's Justin Courtney Pierre with You're the Reason on the December 2022 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. It is the December 2022 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. And right there, you just heard one from Bayside. That was their new single, Go to Hell. I believe that's a standalone. I don't actually think they have like a new album announced or anything. I think that's just kind of a standalone single there. And before that, White Reaper with Fog Machine, a single off their upcoming record, Asking for a Ride. That'll be out January 27th. I mean, depending when you're listening to this, maybe it's even out now. But I'm looking forward to that one. Would love to interview one of them. I mean, White Reaper is, I probably talked about this, but like a show I kick myself for not going to, and it wasn't even that long ago, but when I was still living in Minneapolis, White Reaper and the Dirty Nil played 7th Street Entry, and I was a fan of the Dirty Nil, but I was kind of like I liked them, but they weren't like now they're one of my favorite bands. Like if they played around me, I would go. Like, I mean, if they were playing, you know, like I was talking about earlier, they were playing Cleveland or something, I'd be up in Cleveland tomorrow, like 100%. I mean, they were playing, I mean, I lived on First Avenue, and that venue is, I mean, 7th Street, but right off First Avenue. It was the Dirty Nil and White Reaper, and at the time, I really didn't know White Reaper. I think I heard a song or two, and it just wasn't my thing. I wasn't that into them. Actually, you know what? I got into White Reaper like just as I was leaving Minneapolis. So I actually think it was earlier. I think it might have been like early 2018, early 2019 they played. And at that point I was like, I just started listening to Dirty Nil, but I was like, I only really knew Master Volume. I was kind of a casual fan. And White Reaper, I'd only heard a song or two and just wasn't really that into them. Now I love both those bands, and I can't believe I wasn't at that show. I mean, literally, I mean, I can't tell. I mean, First Avenue and 7th Street Entry are the same venue, and First Avenue is obviously on First Avenue if you can't piece that together. And I used to live on First Avenue, now further down, but I mean, I lived it was like an 8-minute drive. Like it was a one-way. It was a pain in the ass. It was quite a long street, but yeah, I lived on the same street, like 8 minutes up, and really, really kind of kick myself on that one. You know, people kind of have those shows, but I feel like you don't realize it till years later. And I felt that one like, I think months later. Yeah, like as I started getting into White Reaper and got into the Dirty Nil more, I like quickly realized I was like, oh, what a mistake I made. Like not only do I like both these bands, both of them are known for their live show. Like both of them are known very much for having this amazing live show. So I really did blow it with that. But that is like one of those off the top of my head. If you ask me like a show I didn't go to that I regret missing, that one sits up there because I love both of them a ton and have seen neither live either. I'm very sad. Zach, who I'm going to spend New Year's with, he did get to see the Dirty Nil. I don't know if he listens to White Reaper. I need to get him turned on to them. I think he would like that guitar work. There's some amazing musicians in that band. And opening up that block of music was Justin Courtney Pierre with You're the Reason off his new EP, Permanent Midnight. Probably my favorite thing to get released this year. Now, that one I was at. I did see, actually the first show I ever saw at 7th Street Entry was Justin Courtney Pierre for the album release off his solo record, In the Drink, one of my favorite albums of 2018. That album holds up really well. I forget what song I played recently on the radio show, but I played something off of it, and I think that's some of his best songwriting. These EPs have been great, but I'm still waiting for that second record, which I think he just wrote something, actually, because I know he just put a big ol' kind of lengthy like update on like Instagram a week or so ago I saw, and he's just kind of talking about where he is mentally and the new EP and everything. But I believe he did say something about how he was like started to write the follow-up, and then I think like the pandemic happened, and then it just kind of worked out. They started doing these EPs instead. But yeah, I'd still love a follow-up to In the Drink, but these EPs have been really good. But yeah, I got to see that show, and at the time, Motion City Soundtrack were still broken up, so it was cool because a couple of the dudes, Josh Kane and Claudio, their drummer when Tony Thaxton wasn't in the band, they were both there. So it was 3/5 of Motion City Soundtrack, and they played a couple songs and they sounded really good. Actually, they sounded really good with only oh man, what were they missing? They didn't have a bass and no keyboard. Yeah, no keyboard. So it was a bassless, keyboardless Motion City Soundtrack, but they played I forget, they played a couple songs. I want to say like 2 or 3 songs, and were really, really excellent. And then I also got to see Justin play a solo, or not a solo set, like he played his solo songs, but he had a backing band with him, who same one at the 7th Street show, but who played one of the parks up in Minneapolis. It was a cool series. I don't know if they still do, but it was like a free weekend concert series / movie. So a band would play, and then they would show a movie after. Like the band Low, like they played one of them. Justin played one of them. Porcupine, a really good band that Greg Norton from Husker Du was in for a while. They played it. I missed that one, sadly. But, what played? Oh, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, I believe, played with Justin Courtney Pierre, which I just got to be honest. I know people love that movie. I can't stand that movie, so I left before it started. I just got to throw that out there. I did not stay for the movie. I know people love that movie. I saw it once when it came out, and it was like, nah, I'm good. I wasn't really into it, so I was like, nah. 2019, Anthony didn't feel the need to stay after the set and watch that. But I got to tell you, it was really rad to see him play. And when I say play a park, they have this really, really gorgeous stage there. Like, I've said it on here, and I know I keep saying I've said whatever on here, but it's true. I'm redundant, I guess. What I guess I'm saying is you've heard me say all this before, but the park system in Minneapolis and St. Paul is absolutely insane. It's the greatest city park system you will find. I mean, it's just hands down. I've never been to another city or cities with that kind of park system, and the fact that they even have and good bands. Like again, I just said Low and Porcupine and Justin Pierre and stuff. Like they get good acts there, and yeah, this one park has an amazing stage. I'm blanking on the name. It might be like Harriet Park or something, but that might also be wrong. They have so many parks up there too that there's many names to remember, but it's the one, I know it's the one by the cemetery, but there's this huge stage right on the lake. It's gorgeous, really nice place for a show. But yeah, that was a really cool one. But yeah, I'd love a follow-up to In the Drink, because that was really good. And like a new Motion City Soundtrack album, if I'm not asking for too much. That'd be kind of cool too. But a couple more things here, and we will end this one. Some sad news, and I've talked about this. Every time I play the Sidekicks on the radio show, I say that they haven't officially broken up, but they haven't done anything in years. No, now they have announced it. I can stop saying that on the radio show. They have announced they have broken up. The Sidekicks are no more, which makes me very sad. I mean, they were around for a while there, but I didn't really catch on until 2018 when Happiness Hours came out. And that record, I mean, I still love that record. I still listen to it a good amount. And it was one of my favorites of 2018. It sits there. Sometimes my list would change. If I look at my list right now, I'm sure there's albums I would take off of that list. And I'm sure there's probably albums on that list that I haven't listened to in almost 5 years. But that album's not one of them. I still think that album's so good. I mean, they're just a no nonsense good power pop band, really good influences. And I'd heard of them. I kind of slept on them because I heard of them from years, because they were from right up in Cleveland. So they would play. Funny enough, I never saw a show that they played on, but I would know enough people, and there'd be enough bands that I liked, even shows I might have missed that, they were still on the bill or something. So I'd say, actually, funny enough, as I'm saying that, I have a picture with me and Jeff Rosenstock and Chris Farron, and Jeff Rosenstock's wearing a Sidekick shirt. So, things like that. I would see, and that was a couple years before I listened to them. And, so I would see their name and I was aware of them. But, yeah, it took me a while to listen to them because they're around for a while and I have a couple albums out. But Happiness Hours, in my opinion, is their best. And Medium in the Middle is my favorite song of theirs. I'm that song is just so good. The whole record's good, but that song in particular, I'll probably though too, how people attach nostalgia and stuff to things. I listened to that album when it came out, summer 2018. I was on a 4-month cross-country trip. I had quit my job at Kiss FM doing top 40 radio, and I didn't know what I was doing. All I said was what was really happening, I don't know, it's a very, very long and drawn out, and this goes much further than the sidekicks, but it's my podcast, so I guess I can do this. But anyways, I quit my job. I was going to Maui because my cousin was getting married, and I had some family who already had a condo and stuff, and they're like, if you can get yourself out there, it's like you got a free place to stay. We went for 11 days, and I had a free place. Sometimes I forget until I say it out loud that 11 days in Maui is insane, but I had a free place to stay. I didn't charge. I mean, I slept on a pull-out couch, and I had to share that pull-out couch, and a couple times I slept on a patio or on the ground of a balcony, I should say, not a patio. And, things like that. But it was, it was actually pretty cheap, actually, to fly there because I flew from San Francisco. So, I mean, it wasn't like from East Coast over. It was only like a 4-hour flight, but it wasn't bad. But anyway, my whole trip, like, I went out for 4 months. I was doing that, and I was like, all I know is I won't come home until I find an apartment and a job somewhere. Like, at the time I was thinking of Portland and Salt Lake City and Minneapolis. And I ended up in Minneapolis, but it was on that trip. I actually, on that 4-month trip, going to Maui, driving up the Pacific Coast Highway, almost all the way through, meeting Blake Schwarzenbach outside a Jawbreaker show, and then a week later covering Boxcar by Jawbreaker with the Ataris because Chris Rowe was sick and they had no singer. Some wild things on that trip. But anyway, that album had just come out, and I was driving in a lot of places where you don't have cell phone reception. So whatever you have. I did have a CD player, so thankfully when I was buying CDs at record stores, I could play those, but I only had so many with me. So really anything I downloaded on my phone was getting a lot of listens, and this was one of those albums. This album got so many listens. So like this, like even like Medium in the Middle just brings me back to driving through like Oregon, like where it's wild. Because if you've never been to like the Pacific Northwest, it's crazy where like in the summer you'll be like on the coast, and it's like, it's foggy and 70, but it is like August, and if you're down in California, I mean, it's goddamn hot. And all of a sudden you're in this really weird, like, it's kind of hoodie weather, but it's also that kind of weather where you can wear like shorts and a long sleeve shirt, like that kind of thing. And it's just which I like that. I like the gloomy weather. I got to say, I love the Pacific Northwest. Like for me, I'd rather be on a gloomy beach that I'm like walking down it in pants versus like a really sunny one where everyone's out like sunbathing. Like maybe that's just the goth in me, but like that's just what I prefer. So I mean, like I just think of some of these amazing places I would drive my car. I was just sleeping in my car too, like wherever I ended up. Like I was like, okay, I'm tired, I'll just sleep here for the night. This is where I lay. And that album just kind of takes me back to that, which is insane. It's been almost 5 years, but like it like talking about attaching memories and stuff to an album, and maybe that's why I think it's their best album, might have something to do with that. But R.I.P. the Sidekicks. I mean, they were really good, and I've been waiting about 5 years now for a follow-up, because that's always a sad thing when you find Banner Pilot kind of did the same thing to my ass, though, in 2014, because I had slept on Banner Pilot for years and years and years and had heard the name and didn't listen to him until Souvenir came out, and now that album's been out for almost a decade. I mean, it came out either end of 2013, beginning of 2014, and so yeah, I mean, it's getting up there. It's been a while, and I mean, I don't know when they plan on doing another one. I feel like they've kind of talked about it here and there, so I don't know that they'll never do one again. But it's the same kind of deal where you get in this band and it's like, oh my God, you find the back catalog and you find the new album and you love it. And you're waiting for that next one. You're ready to see them on tour, and then they break up. Banner Pilot's toured a little, but not a whole lot, and never anywhere near me. Even though, again, I lived in Minneapolis for a year. They didn't play any shows that I don't believe they play any shows in 2019. Dillinger 4 played some shows and they sold out every time before I could get tickets, because the Twin Cities do love their Dillinger 4. I can attest to it, because I slept on tickets not even slept on them. They sold out before I could grab tickets. And that's because, I mean, if you're a band like Dillinger 4 come from, the Twin Cities, I mean, you got to pay your respects. You just have to. But yeah, I did not get to see Banner Pilot live. I still haven't. I was actually Justin Vaughn, to go back to him from Low Morale. We were talking, I know he posted something online not too long ago about Banner Pilot and I can't remember. Oh no, maybe it was just Banner Pilot. And I was like, I've never seen Banner Pilot either, and I would love to see them live, and Dillinger 4, because I've never seen either live. And same with new albums, because Dillinger 4 has not released new albums since I discovered them and became a fan. So like I would love something new from them. But yeah. Anyway, getting back to the whole news story again. I get sidetracked, but I mean that's what these monthly rundowns are for. There's really no, I mean even the news. I'm no news reporter. I mean there's millions of music stories. I'm sure some more important than others, and I just kind of throw a few on that look kind of interesting to me. Kind of some light lifting at the end of these. But yeah, I feel like I got very sidetracked from the sidekicks. But I mean, very sad to see they broke up. But it was kind of one of those things where like they never said they broke up until now, but you kind of thought they did. You know what I mean? Like they never really toured. They didn't, I think they did like one song in like 2020 maybe. Jerry Garcia, I think, was in the name, but I can't remember the rest of it. But like, really didn't do a whole lot. So it's just one of those things where like again on the radio show I'd say it constantly when I played something. I'm like, this band hasn't broken up that they've said, but they also haven't played in, insert whatever number of years it had been when I was talking about them on the show, so kind of sad. But good news actually on their reunion side, it had been announced that Head Automatica will be reuniting for their first show in over 10 years. They will be playing Furnace Fest 2023, which that should be pretty cool. That's going to be going on in Birmingham, Alabama, September 23rd and the 24th. Dates have been announced, and tickets are on sale now too, I believe. But I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, Head Automatica have not played or put out music forever, but they're famously, like, when people talk about bands who have albums that have been shelved, that have never seen the light of day, Head Automatica is like the first band that comes to mind with Swan Damage. I remember reading about that in like alternative press. I mean, over a decade ago, probably at this point at least. And even then, that's how long it's been. I think when I read about it, it only been shelved for a few years. Like at the time, it wasn't even that insane amount. I mean, it'd been a while, but it was to the point where it's like, well, maybe they'll release it. Now, I don't know that they're ever going to release that or that's the light of day. And I mean, nothing on the front of them recording music, but they've announced that one show, so who knows? There's been, I mean, I don't have the list in front of me, but I know there's at least a few other bands kind of from that like early 2000s, mid 2000s era reuniting next year. I know When We Were Young Fest has a few on that I can't remember off the top of my head, but definitely some cool reunions. I like Head Automatica, though I will say if I'm listening to Daryl, it's probably going to be Glassjaw. I'm probably more of a Glassjaw fan. But I think Head Automatica is great too, and I also think the fact that both of them, the way they sound and how great both of them are and how different they are, also shows just how great Daryl is as a musician. I mean, or as a songwriter and all that. And it's funny too because I didn't realize till maybe like a week ago that Vinnie Caruana from the Movie Life played guitar for a real hot second in Head Automatica when they formed. I don't know if he was their original guitarist, and I don't even know if he played on anything, but like I didn't realize that till like a week or so ago, and it like blew my mind. I mean, obviously I knew Vinny and Daryl would know each other, like Glassjaw and the Movie Life obviously played a bunch together, but I didn't know that he ever played. I guess I knew Vinny played guitar. I've seen him play acoustic before, but I don't think of guitar when I think of Vinnie Caruana, and definitely never knew he was in Head Automatica. So now I got to like look up some YouTube video and stuff. See if I assume he played live and stuff. So maybe there's like some live video. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool to see that, and cool to see that they're playing a show. I'm kind of I'm kind of a casual fan, but I like Head Automatica. It's cool to see that. And they're another one. I've never seen them live or Glassjaw, and I would love to see them. I saw some video. I was watching it like maybe yesterday on YouTube of like I don't know, it was like the last couple years of Glassjaw playing, and I forget too that they always change their lineups. I forget that Glassjaw never really has the same lineup because Daryl's the only guy in it that I noticed. But that band sounded so solid. They only had one guitarist in that one too. I know sometimes they have two, but they sounded really, really good. It was a festival. I don't remember what country they were playing. It was from the last couple years. Like it was pretty recent. And they just sounded so good. And, I'd love to see them live. And they're another one. I mean, they play, but they're not out playing like, 6 months out of the year or anything like that. But, yeah, they'd be cool to see as well, too. And another little piece of music news I will leave you with. I thought this was kind of cool. Iggy Pop, if you haven't seen, he has a new record coming out here next month. But he has an all-star backing band for him with some of these dates that he's going to be playing coming up on the West Coast in California and Nevada. But he's going to have Andrew Watt, Chad Smith, and Duff McKagan playing with him, which I thought was pretty cool. That'd be the backing band. They're called the Losers, And I think that should be a pretty good show. I mean, just on top of, I feel like though anybody playing with him, I don't think you really care who's on stage because Iggy Pop, but still, I mean, if you're gonna have a backing band, that's not a bad one. Same with when Mike Watt was playing with him for all those years in the Stooges. I think that would have been cool. You know, I mean, I never saw him live, but I mean, to see that, and then it's kind of like the cherry on top is like, oh yeah, you also have like another punk rock legend on there that almost gets overshadowed. That's how like great the Stooges are, that like Mike Watt's on stage and he's like the second thing you know. He's not even the second thing you notice. Like there's a bunch of things you notice before you even notice Mike Watt on stage. But that'd be cool. I would love, Iggy Pop's one of those guys. I mean, I would love to see him live. And like the show still seems like it'd be great. Like not one of those guys where it's like, well, he's not going to be very good, but I just want to say I saw him. Like he seems like he would still put on a really solid show. I felt that way when I saw Bob Dylan a few years ago. I was like, I mean, I'm not like, I do like Bob Dylan. I mean, I would say I'm a little more in a casual Dylan fan, but I'm not like a diehard. But I was like, I gotta go see him. And part of it was that it wasn't even so much of like it mattered how he's going to sound. It's like it'd be cool to like say I saw Dylan and everything. But he ended up being, I don't even want to say surprising because that makes it sound like I thought he was going to be shitty, and I didn't think that. But still, you're like, I don't know how it'll be. And then you hear people go, sometimes he's hit or miss. But he was excellent in 2019 when I saw him. And yeah, it was really, really good. And I was happy I got to see him. The price of tickets, I don't know. I felt like it was not really for Bob Dylan, but that was the thing. You like paid it. It was like when I went to see the Misfits. It was one of those things where it's like, I should not pay this. I feel like a dumbass paying this, but I want to see Glenn Danzig up there singing Skulls. Like, you know what I mean? Like I gotta go see that. So I'm like, I'll plus Fear was opening too. So that was actually that was another time I went and hung out with Zach in Springfield, Illinois. Shout out Springfield, Illinois. And the band Attic Salt from there. They're a great band. I hope they put out another album soon. They're a really good pop punk band. They put out a good record a couple years ago. But yeah, that Iggy Pop not playing anywhere near me, but I'm looking forward to that new record, and hopefully he'll announce. I know he's doing a bunch of foreign dates next year, but it's funny because I guess I've seen it before, but I am starting to put together, which shame on us Americans. I feel like Iggy Pop does better in other markets, in other countries. Like I feel like if you look at his touring, like that dude, I mean, obviously he does good here, but you don't really see Iggy Pop doing these huge like US runs. Like I feel like he'll do like, he'll do a couple on a coast, or maybe, like I'm sure he'll hit like a Chicago or something like that. And he'll be on like a handful of festivals, but like I feel like most of his stuff is all foreign basically, which again, like that's rad, but it's like with the Ramones where it's like, I think it's so cool that all these other countries embrace them, but shame on us. We have one of the greatest bands of all time. And it's like, if you ever want to look at that, like the Ramones Museum isn't even in New York City. Like, wouldn't you think that New York City, like someone would have done that? Like, credit to Berlin and the people who do it over there, the Ramones Museum. But it's like, don't you think that would have like been thought of and done already in New York City, like long before? Like, shame on us. Like, we have all these amazing artists that, get so much more credit other places. Allister's another one, actually. Allister, that old, big in Japan, but they really are. Like, they're so much bigger in Japan than they are in the States. Though I will say, I mean, it was cool. They had a good turnout. And anytime I've seen them live, I feel like they have a pretty good turnout because they don't play over here so much. But again, if people were like coming to the shows and they were filled and they were playing, huge theaters or arenas, of course they'd play the States all the time. Like, obviously, there's less attendance over here, even for someone like Iggy Pop. And actually, speaking of in the realm, I was sad, but I really wasn't expecting to interview him. But I mean, I would love to interview Iggy Pop, but I was going to say like a month or so, or no, not a month or so ago, like a week or so ago, I did send out an interview request for John Cale because he has a new record coming out next month. And, it was shot in the dark for sure. But yeah, I got back from his record label. I mean, nothing bad, not like fuck off or anything. It was just like, yeah, he's not doing them at the moment or doing interviews at the moment or something like that. But that would have been pretty cool to, speaking of legends, I mean, John Cale on your show, that would be pretty insane. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe he'll change his mind. He'll go back and listen to like, I don't know, one of my episodes, maybe like my top 5 Blink-182 songs episode. And he'll go, well, shit, I think I got to be on this guy's show. Like, I have to be, because like everyone says, not many people listen to this podcast, but everyone who does went out and started their own podcast. It's kind of this this podcast kind of like the Velvet Underground in that way, is that nobody's listening to it, but the 10 people that are, they all went and started their own podcast. They're all much more successful. But yeah, that would have been cool to talk to John Cale, but I didn't think it was going to happen. But then again, I think Greg Graffin was going to happen, and it did. Same with John Doe, actually, because I asked it like 2 years prior and never got anything back, and then asked again, and lo and behold, we had him on, and it was like one of the greatest interviews that I've ever done, and will probably always hold that deep in my heart, with up there with the CJ Ramone one. I kind of like I can't knock CJ Ramone out of his part, because it's like he was like the first real and one of the first, actually, that's the funny thing, is like that's how cool he is. One of the first like legends I interviewed, but also just one of the first people I interviewed in general, you know? But it's also wild when you're starting out, because I say like interviewing him, same with like Stephen Jenkins of Third Eye Blind, like it was rad to interview him, and it was like a 5-minute interview. He was just doing a quick little press tour. Like you only got like 5 minutes with him, but like still, like even doing that when you've only done a handful of interviews, like you're fucking nervous. Like that's the guy from Third Eye Blind. Like that's a singer of Third Eye Blind. Like I'm playing him constantly. That was a radio station I quit when I went to Maui, but and listened to a bunch of the Sidekicks. But yeah, you know, it's kind of wild. Same with CJ, but CJ was, both of them were cool, but CJ I talked to for like a half hour, and I just remember what honor it was, because we talked Tom Waits, because he did a great cover of Pony on his solo record American Beauty, God, 5 years ago, and that's when I interviewed him, over 5 years ago now. But and then obviously the Ramones they covered I Don't Want to Grow Up, and Tom Waits covered the Ramones. I mean, the Ramones and Tom Waits do have mutual love, but you know, you don't see a whole lot in interviews. They don't talk a lot about Tom Waits when they're like interviewing the Ramones. And I got into it with CJ. I was like, I want to know all about it. Like, what's your favorite Tom Waits song? Like, what's an album you would tell someone to listen to? Like, how'd you get into Tom Waits? And he thanked me after, because he's like, normally like I'll you know, talk to like, you know, a punk publication or something, and the second I bring up Tom Waits, it's like they like start changing the subject. So I always thought it was really cool that he was like into all the Tom Waits talk, and I thought it was cool too, because it's like, why wouldn't people want to hear this? It was really cool. So yeah, that is out there if you've never listened to my CJ Ramone interview. But you know, like I say, I mean, that one's always going to be like one of my all-time favorites, and I feel like him and John Doe kind of sit like side by side in my hearts. In my heart, I guess I only have one heart. But actually, I think CJ, I want to say they might even follow each other. I don't know why. That's some I believe what Every Time I Die would call like shinfo. But like, yeah, I'm pretty sure John Doe and CJ Ramone maybe CJ Ramone follows John Doe and he's a fan of X. I don't know, something like that on Instagram. I don't know. It's something I've seen, because I follow both of them on Instagram, because I've interviewed both of them. But yeah, both total legends that I can't believe I got to talk to. But I'm just rambling now. I mean, I feel like we've went on long enough. But, you know, and I was talking about it earlier, but again, like, sincerely thank you for listening to the show, this episode, all the other ones. You know, it has been a very busy year. Again, it was the first year that I really had guests almost on a weekly basis. And I went 4 hours on the radio show, and then got a job in radio as well at the same station, and, you know, stayed quite busy. You know, so that's the other thing with, like, also knocking the radio show down 3 hours. I also, like, when I started doing 4 hours of the radio show, I didn't have much going on. We were coming out of the pandemic, and I really was not all that busy. And then I got a job at the same radio station that I volunteer at. And, you know, once I got a paid gig, I started getting pretty busy with other things. So, you know, cutting back that hour. But again, I'm sure I'll still use that hour finding guests, or, you know, just doing something else, building upon the podcast maybe, or on the radio show. Who knows? I'm sure I'll still spend way too many hours on this show, but that is all right, because again, you're listening to it, and I appreciate it. And yeah, so if you want to stay connected to the show, we're at Power Chord Hour on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. What else? Hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com. Rate, review, and subscribe. That would be great. Listen to the radio show. Actually, still this week, if you're listening the last week of 2022, we will still have a 4-hour episode for you. So that'll still be going on this Friday, 8 to midnight Eastern on 107.9 WRFA. And you can also stream it online, WRFALP.com. And yeah, if you want to listen to that. And then, yeah, next year we'll go 3 hours, 8 to 11 Friday nights, and then also Tuesdays, midnight to 3, which again, if you're West Coast, that actually, I would say, works out quite well. So if you want to listen to a late night radio show on Tuesdays, you have no real excuse. That's like perfect. Like, what are you doing during those hours? Like, listen to my radio show, you know? But yeah, we will be back next year. I will say even stronger, and I'm going to look like a real dumbass if we don't come back stronger. But yeah, we will start off the year with my top 10 of 2022. I'm looking forward to talking that. There's some really good albums this year. And yeah, then we'll have some guests for you. And, we'll have some returning people. We'll get some new people. And hopefully some more legends to, fit in my heart to put right next to John Doe and CJ Ramone. I guess it's all bass players, actually. Yeah, I guess it's singing bass players. That's I only have space for singing bass players in my heart. So Mark Hoppus, what's up, dude? You know what to do. Hit me up. Have your people hit my people, which I am my people. So just have them hit me up. And we'll get shit going on that. We'll get Mark Hoppus on next year. Actually, Blink does have that record coming out and that tour. And to be honest, I'm sure they need that Power Chord Hour boost. I'm sure being on this show will sell that much more tickets and albums. But yeah, until next year, happy holidays, happy new year. I'm Anthony Merchant for the Power Chord Hour. Thank you so much for listening.